September 16, 1943, Tukina Airfield, Bougainville. Captain James Jimmy Sweat watched his wingman's F-4U Corsair spiral into the jungle, trailing black smoke. That was the third plane VMF 213 had lost this week. Not to superior Japanese aircraft, but to wasted ammunition. Sweat's own gun camera footage told the brutal story. He fired 400 rounds at a zero at 300 yards. The tracers passed around the target, above it, below it, to both sides. A perfect envelope of death with nothing in the middle. The zero escaped, and Sweat's guns went empty. 2 minutes later, that same zero shot down his wingman. Marine pilots were only achieving a dismal 3.2 to 1 kill ratio, despite the Corsair's overwhelming speed and firepower. The problem wasn't the pilots or the guns, it was gun harmonization. Factory specifications set the convergence, the point where all 6 Artex 050 caliber machine gun bullets meet, at Math BF to 1,000 feet. At that range, the bullets spread across a 30-foot circle. Japanese Zeros were only 29 feet wide. Pilots were threading needles at 300 miles per hour. VMF 213 had the worst ratio in the Pacific, 890 rounds expended per confirmed kill. Major Gregory Pappy Boyington, after viewing Sweat's footage, shook his head, saying, "You're shooting at ghosts. Your bullets are everywhere except where the enemy is." What no one knew was that a 26-year-old aviation ordnance man, Staff Sergeant Michael Mickey McCarthy, was watching the same footage. His job was loading and maintaining the guns, not redesigning them. The engineer's logic for the 1,000-foot convergence was sound. It gave pilots time to aim and fire a sustained burst. It was a compromise between effective range and hit probability, but combat proved them wrong. Most dogfights happened at 200 to 400 yards, where the standard convergence left a 20-foot-wide bullet pattern. Japanese aircraft slipped through the gaps. The expert consensus was unanimous and explicitly ordered. Convergence could not be set closer than 500 feet due to dangerous gun barrel stress and structural wing damage. But McCarthy saw the math differently. He calculated the convergence geometry using trigonometry he'd learned fixing car engines. The insight hit him. At 1,000 feet, bullets took nearly a full second to reach the target, and a zero traveling hot text to 300 mph moved 440 feet in that time. Pilots were missing because they were aiming at where the target was, not where it is. If convergence was set to 300 feet, bullets would reach the target in 1/3 of a second, and the zero would only move 50 feet. More importantly, at 300 feet, all 6 guns' bullets would arrive in a space the size of a dinner plate. McCarthy ran the numbers. A 1-second burst at 300 feet convergence would deliver enough kinetic energy to disintegrate an enemy aircraft. It was simple, brutal, effective, and against regulations. He knew a formal request would take months, so he didn't ask. On the night of September 18, 1943, McCarthy and 2 fellow ordnancemen rolled Captain Sweat's personal Corsair into the hangar. To set the guns to 300 feet, he needed to increase the angle by 8 techs to 2.4 degrees. To prevent the mounting brackets from cracking, McCarthy cut 1/4-inch steel from a damaged wing panel, shaped it with a file and hacksaw, and welded reinforcement brackets onto each gun mount. The work took 6 hours. Using a wooden jig and a method his father taught him for aligning car headlights, he bore-sighted the guns to a target frame at exactly 300 feet. The reinforcement brackets held. The next morning, Captain Sweat stared at his gun barrels, which were pointing inward at a noticeably steeper angle. "McCarthy," Sweat said slowly, "what did you do to my guns?" "Sir, I adjusted your gun convergence to 300 feet, sir." "That's against regulations. That's unauthorized modification of military equipment. That is illegal." "Yes, sir," McCarthy replied. "If this doesn't work, I'm court-martialed for sabotaging equipment." Sweat thought about his wingman and the Japanese pilots boasting that their bullets scatter like rain. "What happens if it does work?" Sweat asked. McCarthy allowed himself a small smile. "Sir, you're going to kill everything you look at." Sweat climbed into the cockpit. "Let's find out." At 0830 hours, Captain Sweat intercepted 9 Zeros and 6 dive bombers. He closed to 320 feet and fired a 1-second burst. The Zero didn't just get hit, it disintegrated. Debris forced Sweat to break right. He lined up on the next zero, 300 feet, 1 second burst. The left wing tore completely off. Third zero, 280 feet, half-second burst. The cockpit exploded. Total ammunition expended, 200 rounds. 3 confirmed kills in 45 seconds. Sweat personally accounted for 5 kills that morning. He returned with more than half his ammunition remaining. When he landed, 30 people were waiting. Major Wade Britt, the squadron commander, ignored the furious protests of the operations officer who forbade the modification. Sweat interrupted the argument. "Sir, I just shot down 5 Japanese aircraft with 200 rounds. Before today, I needed 400 rounds to maybe hit one." Major Britt turned to the sergeant. "Sergeant McCarthy, can you modify every Corsair in this squadron by tomorrow morning?" "Yes, sir, I can do it." "Then do it. Every aircraft, 300 feet tonight." The next day, September 20th, 8 modified VMF-213 Corsairs intercepted a large Japanese formation. In a 12-minute engagement, VMF-213 shot down 15 enemy aircraft with 0 losses. The ammunition expenditure per kill dropped from 890 to 180 rounds. At 300 feet, the gun camera footage showed a solid beam of fire. Japanese aircraft didn't just get hit, they exploded. Word spread like wildfire. Within a month, every F-4U Corsair in the Pacific Theater was running McCarthy's gun harmonization. The squadron's kill-to-loss ratio skyrocketed from 3.2 to 1 to 11.3 to 1. Ammunition efficiency improved by 368%. The Japanese noticed immediately. A captured pilot reported, "The American Corsair changed. Before we could dodge their bullets, they scattered. Now when they fire, there is no dodging. The bullets are like a solid wall. We call them concentrated death." Between September and December 1943, Marine Corsair squadrons shot down 487 confirmed Japanese aircraft. The modification didn't just kill more enemy planes, it allowed Marines to disengage from combat and survive. Pilot survival rates improved drastically. Pappy Boyington, who tied the World War I kill record with a McCarthy-modified Corsair, credited the fix directly. "Before McCarthy's fix, I was a good pilot with mediocre results. After McCarthy's fix, every trigger pull was a kill. That modification made me an ace." In 1944, the Marine Corps officially adopted the 300-foot convergence. The same Bureau of Aeronautics engineers who said it was impossible concluded that McCarthy's reinforcement brackets actually improved wing strength. The official modification manual credited the design to Boer engineering staff. McCarthy's name did not appear. He remained a sergeant, an ordnance man. But the pilots knew. At the squadron Christmas party, Captain Sweat raised his glass. "Every pilot in this squadron owes their life to a sergeant who thought he knew better than the engineers. Turns out he did. To Mickey McCarthy, the deadliest Marine who never pulled a trigger." Sweat wrote later in his memoir, "Mickey McCarthy made me an ace. He made all of us aces." McCarthy's 300-foot gun convergence became standard for every U.S. fighter aircraft for the rest of World War II, including the P-51 Mustang and P-47 Thunderbolt. Post-war analysis credits the tighter convergence with improving overall U.S. fighter kill ratios by 34%. Modern U.S. military fighter aircraft still use the principle McCarthy discovered, concentrating firepower at close combat ranges. The Marine Corps never formally recognized Staff Sergeant Michael McCarthy's contribution. When he died in 1979, his obituary was 3 sentences long. It didn't mention he changed aerial combat forever. But me to text $800. Marines came home because Mickey McCarthy knew how to use a wrench. The Corsair achieved its legendary kill ratio because one sergeant looked at a problem everyone else accepted and refused to accept it. He proved that sometimes the best solutions don't come from following the rules, they come from knowing when to break them. Would you like me to find more stories about individuals who changed history by defying established norms and procedures?